growing up as the youngest Williams' son meant living in the shadow of Marcus, my older brother who seemed destined for greatness from the moment he could walk. While Marcus excelled at everything, star quarterback, valedictorian, full scholarship to Harvard Business School, I was the quiet kid who preferred tinkering with computers in the basement to throwing footballs in the backyard. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" became the family anthem throughout my childhood. Marcus would flash his perfect smile at family dinners while recounting his latest achievements: starting quarterback, Dean's List, job offers from Goldman Sachs. Meanwhile, I'd sit quietly picking at my food, while Dad would shake his head in disappointment at my report cards filled with B's and C's. The pattern continued into our 20s. Marcus landed his dream job at a prestigious investment firm in Manhattan, married his college sweetheart Sarah in a wedding that cost more than most people's houses, and bought a sprawling home in Connecticut that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Every holiday gathering became an opportunity for him to showcase his latest promotion, bonus, or acquisition. I, on the other hand, dropped out of college during my sophomore year to focus on what my family called my computer hobby. While Marcus was climbing corporate ladders, I was spending 18-hour days in my cramped studio apartment, surviving on ramen noodles and energy drinks, building something I believed could change the world. My family saw it differently. "It's time to grow up, David," Dad would say during our monthly phone calls. "Get a real job. Marcus can probably put in a good word for you somewhere." The suggestion that I needed my brother's help to find work stung, but I'd learned to keep my responses measured. "I'm working on something, Dad. Give me more time." "Time for what?" "Playing video games." Mom would chime in from the background. "You're 28 years old. When are you going to start acting like it?" The breaking point came during Christmas dinner 3 years ago. The whole family had gathered at our parents' house in suburban Chicago, Marcus and Sarah, our cousins from Denver, Uncle Tom and Aunt Linda, and Grandma Helen, who at 85 still had opinions about everyone's life choices. Marcus had just finished regaling the table with stories about his latest promotion to senior vice president, complete with details about his 7-figure salary and the corner office overlooking Central Park. The table erupted in congratulations and toasts, while I continued cutting my ham, hoping to avoid the inevitable comparison. "And what about you, David?" Uncle Tom asked with that tone relatives use when they already know the answer will disappoint them. "Still working on that computer thing?" Before I could respond, Marcus jumped in with a laugh that cut through me like a knife. "David's still living in his fantasy world, aren't you, little brother? Still thinking you're going to be the next Steve Jobs or something?" The table chuckled, but it was the kind of nervous laughter that happens when someone crosses a line but everyone's too polite to call it out. Except Dad, who saw it as an opportunity to pile on. "Marcus is right. David, you need to face facts. You're not a kid anymore. This computer hobby has gone on long enough." His voice carried the authority of someone who'd built a successful accounting firm from nothing and expected his sons to follow conventional paths to success. "I keep telling him to come work for me," Marcus continued, buttering his role with theatrical flair. "I could probably find him something in our IT department. Nothing fancy, but at least he'd have steady income and benefits." The condescension in his voice made my stomach turn, but I'd learned years ago that fighting back only made these situations worse. "That's generous of you," I said quietly, focusing on my plate. "Generous?" Sarah laughed, her voice sharp with wine and superiority. "Marcus is being incredibly kind. Most people wouldn't offer their unemployed brother a job." "I'm not unemployed," I said, looking up for the first time. "I'm building a company." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Marcus started laughing, not the polite chuckle from before, but genuine belly laughter that echoed through the dining room. "A company?" he wheezed, wiping tears from his eyes. "David, you've been saying that for 6 years. 6 years. At what point do you admit it's not working?" Cousin Jake, fresh out of college and eager to impress the adults, decided to join the pile-on. "What kind of company is it, David? Like, do you have employees?" "It's complicated," I said, which only made Marcus laugh harder. "Complicated," he repeated. "That's what people say when they're embarrassed about what they actually do. Come on, David. Just admit it. You're 30 years old, living in a studio apartment, surviving on credit cards and whatever money mom and dad slip you when they think no one's looking." The accuracy of his assessment stung because it wasn't entirely wrong. My apartment was indeed tiny and I had been living lean for years, reinvesting every penny back into my work. What they didn't understand was that it was a choice, not a failure. Your brother's right, Dad said, his disappointment evident in every word. We've supported your dream long enough. It's time to be realistic about your limitations. Grandma Helen, who'd been quietly observing the exchange, finally spoke up. In my day, men had jobs by the time they were 18. Real jobs. None of this computer nonsense. The conversation continued around me as family members shared their opinions about my life choices, each comment more painful than the last. Marcus held court like a conquering hero, dispensing wisdom about career success and adult responsibility, while I sat there absorbing every criticism like a sponge. You know what your problem is? Marcus said, leaning back in his chair with the confidence of someone who'd never failed at anything important. You think you're special. You think the rules don't apply to you. But reality doesn't care about your feelings, David. The market has spoken. If your idea was any good, someone would have bought it by now. Or invested in it, Dad added. Legitimate businesses attract investment. If you can't find anyone willing to put money into this company of yours, maybe that should tell you something. The irony of his statement almost made me smile, but I managed to keep my expression neutral. Maybe you're right, I said, which seemed to satisfy them enough to move on to other topics. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of conversations about Marcus's success, Sarah's interior design business, and various family members' achievements. I contributed when directly asked but otherwise remained silent, mentally checking out of the whole experience. After dinner, while the women cleaned up and the men watched football, I found myself alone in the kitchen with Mom. She approached me with the gentle expression she'd perfected over the years, the look that said she loved me but was disappointed in my choices. Honey, she said, touching my arm, I know tonight was hard, but Marcus and your father are just worried about you. We all are. I know, Mom. You're brilliant, David. Everyone knows that. But brilliance without direction is just wasted potential. Maybe it's time to consider Marcus's offer. There's no shame in working for someone else while you figure things out. The suggestion that I needed to figure things out, after 6 years of 18-hour days and countless sleepless nights, was almost insulting, but I knew she meant well. I'll think about it, I lied. Good, she said, squeezing my arm. And maybe next Christmas you'll have some good news to share with the family. The drive back to my apartment that night was one of the longest of my life. Marcus's words echoed in my head. The market has spoken. If your idea was any good, someone would have bought it by now. The painful part was that I'd had offers, serious offers from major tech companies who wanted to acquire my artificial intelligence platform. But they wanted to buy it to kill it, to prevent it from disrupting their existing products. I'd turned down everyone, believing my technology deserved better. 3 months later, everything changed. I was in my apartment on a Tuesday morning in March, debugging code and surviving on my third cup of coffee when my phone rang. The number wasn't familiar, but something about it looked important, too clean, too professional to be a spam call. David Williams? The voice was crisp, professional, with a slight New York accent. This is David. Mr. Williams, this is Jennifer Martinez from Forbes magazine. I'm a senior writer covering emerging technology and artificial intelligence. I've been following your company's development, and I'd like to schedule an interview for a profile we're preparing. My heart stopped. Forbes had been tracking my work. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? We're doing a feature on the next generation of AI pioneers who are reshaping the technology landscape. Your platform has been generating significant buzz in Silicon Valley, and several of our sources have mentioned you as someone we need to watch. We'd like to include you in our upcoming cover story on tech visionaries under 35. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. Jennifer explained that they'd been researching my AI platform for months, had spoken with industry experts who called it revolutionary, and wanted to feature me alongside other breakthrough entrepreneurs. The article would run in their next issue with the cover story titled, The New Titans, Young Billionaires Reshaping Technology. Billionaires. I asked, certain I'd misheard. Based on our valuation analysis and recent market comparisons, we're estimating your platform's worth at approximately $3.2 billion. Several venture capital firms have confirmed they're preparing acquisition offers in that range. You didn't know. I didn't know because I'd been so focused on building that I'd ignored the business side. My lawyer had been fielding calls for months, but I told him to decline everything unless it met my criteria. Full autonomy, unlimited development budget, and a commitment to using the technology for beneficial purposes rather than profit maximization. Mr. Williams? Are you still there? Yes, sorry. This is a lot to process. I understand. The article goes live tomorrow morning on our website, and the print issue hits newsstands on Friday. We'll need to schedule the photo shoot for the cover in the next few days. My assistant will coordinate with your team. After hanging up, I sat in my studio apartment staring at the walls covered with whiteboards full of code and algorithms. In less than 24 hours, everything was about to change. The Forbes article published at exactly 6 a.m. Eastern Time the next morning. My phone started ringing before I'd even had my first cup of coffee. Venture capitalists, tech reporters, acquisition scouts, and corporate headhunters all wanted to talk to the billionaire genius who'd been hiding in plain sight. The irony wasn't lost on me that while my family saw me as a failure, the tech world had been quietly watching my progress for years. The AI platform I'd built wasn't just innovative. According to Forbes and the industry experts they'd consulted, it was revolutionary enough to disrupt multiple sectors simultaneously. But the call I'd been waiting for came that evening. Mom. David. Her voice was different, uncertain, almost timid. Honey, I just saw something online. There's an article about you in Forbes magazine. Yeah, Mom. It came out this morning. It says you're worth over $3 billion. That can't be right, can it? The conversation that followed was surreal. For 30 minutes, I explained to my mother what I'd been building for the past 6 years while she'd thought I was wasting my life. The artificial intelligence platform that could revolutionize everything from medical diagnosis to climate modeling. The patents that tech giants were desperate to acquire. The breakthrough algorithms that MIT professors were calling the most significant advancement in machine learning in decades. But honey, why didn't you tell us? We thought you were struggling. I tried to tell you, Mom. Every time I explained what I was working on, Dad said it was a hobby. Marcus said I was living in a fantasy world. Everyone told me to get a real job. The silence on the other end stretched for nearly a minute. Finally, she spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. Your father wants to talk to you. Dad got on the phone, and for the first time in my adult life I heard something in his voice I'd never heard before. Respect. Son, I owe you an apology. We all do. I just got off the phone with my accountant. He called me after seeing the article. He says what you've built is... Well, he used words I don't understand, but he was very impressed. Thanks, Dad. Marcus wants to talk to you too. He's been trying to call you for hours. I'd been ignoring Marcus's calls all day, partly because I was busy with interviews and meetings, but mostly because I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. I'll call him later. David, I need you to know how proud I am of you. How proud we all are. I know we didn't understand what you were doing, but that's no excuse for how we treated you. Especially at Christmas. Christmas. The dinner that had happened exactly 9 months ago felt like a lifetime away now. The memory of sitting at that table, absorbing criticism while knowing what I was really accomplishing, would probably stay with me forever. It's okay, Dad. You didn't know. No, it's not okay. A father should support his son's dreams, even when he doesn't understand them. I failed you and I'm sorry. The Forbes article was just the beginning. Over the next week, the story exploded across social media and tech blogs. CNN wanted an interview. The Today Show invited me to discuss the future of artificial intelligence. Harvard Business School asked me to speak at their entrepreneurship conference. The same institution that had celebrated my brother's MBA was now inviting me to address their students about innovation and success. But the moment that mattered most came 2 weeks later, at Marcus's birthday party. Sarah had planned an elaborate celebration at their Connecticut home, a lavish affair with 50 guests, a catered dinner, and enough champagne to float a small boat. Under normal circumstances, it would have been another opportunity for Marcus to hold court while I sat quietly in the corner. But nothing about this situation was normal anymore. I arrived at the party to find a very different dynamic than I was used to. Instead of ignoring me or making subtle jokes about my career, family members approached me with genuine curiosity about my work. Cousins who'd barely acknowledged my existence in the past wanted to know about artificial intelligence and the future of technology. Uncle Tom, who'd been skeptical of my computer thing just months earlier, spent 20 minutes asking detailed questions about my platform's applications in healthcare. The most dramatic change was in Marcus himself. Gone was the confident, slightly condescending older brother who dominated family gatherings for decades. Instead, he seemed almost nervous around me, uncertain of how to navigate this new reality where his little brother had achieved success beyond anything he'd ever imagined. "David," he said, approaching me while I was talking with some of his friends about machine learning applications. "Could I speak with you privately for a minute?" We stepped onto his back deck, overlooking the perfectly manicured lawn that had probably cost more than most people's cars. Marcus stood at the railing, looking out at his property with an expression I couldn't quite read. "I owe you an apology," he said finally. "A big one." "Marcus, you don't." "Yes, I do." He turned to face me and I was surprised to see genuine regret in his eyes. "What I said at Christmas was inexcusable. Calling your work a hobby, suggesting you were living in a fantasy world. I was completely wrong and I'm sorry." The apology felt genuine, but there was something else in his expression, something that looked almost like fear. "I appreciate that," I said. "But it's in the past now." "Is it?" he asked. "Because I've been thinking about this a lot over the past few weeks. You sat there at Christmas dinner and let me humiliate you in front of the entire family, even though you knew what you'd accomplished. You could have defended yourself, could have put me in my place, but you didn't. Why?" It was a good question and I'd been asking myself the same thing. Because it wouldn't have mattered. You wouldn't have believed me, and even if you had, it would have sounded like bragging. But you let me make you look like a failure. I let you reveal who you really are, I said. "There's a difference." Marcus flinched at that and I realized my words had hit harder than I'd intended. We stood in silence for a moment, the weight of years of family dynamics hanging between us. "I need to ask you something," he said, his voice quieter now. "And I need you to be honest with me." "Okay." "The investment firm I work for. We've been hemorrhaging clients lately. Major accounts pulling out, deals falling through. It's been building for months, but it's getting worse. My boss is starting to make noise about layoffs, and with my salary and bonuses, I'm an expensive employee." I waited for him to continue, sensing there was more to this conversation than a simple apology. "I know this is presumptuous and I have no right to ask after how I've treated you, but would you consider investing in our firm? Or maybe we could discuss some kind of partnership. Your success could bring credibility that we desperately need right now." And there was the real reason for the apology, the private conversation, the sudden change in attitude. Marcus wasn't just sorry for how he'd treated me, he needed something from me now. The irony was almost too perfect. 6 months ago he'd offered me a job in his company's IT department like he was doing me an enormous favor. Now he was asking me to invest in that same company to help save his career. "Marcus," I said carefully, "I appreciate the apology and I accept it. But I'm not interested in investing in your firm." His face fell, but he tried to maintain his composure. "Could I ask why? Is it because of what happened at Christmas?" "No," I said. "It's because I don't invest in companies I don't believe in. Your firm's problems aren't just bad luck or market conditions. From what I've researched, you've been making poor decisions for years, taking unnecessary risks and prioritizing short-term profits over long-term stability. That's not a business model I want to support." "You researched my company?" "I research everything, Marcus. It's what I do." I looked out at his lawn, perfectly maintained and completely artificial. "But I will make you an offer." His eyes lit up with hope. "If you're interested in working in artificial intelligence, I could use someone with your financial background to help manage the business side of my company. The position would involve significant responsibility, competitive salary, and stock options that could be worth quite a lot if we continue growing." "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an opportunity. But it would mean leaving your current position, relocating to Silicon Valley and starting over in a field you don't know. It would also mean working for your little brother, which I understand might be difficult for someone who's spent years seeing me as a failure." Marcus was quiet for a long time, staring out at his perfect yard with its perfect landscaping and perfect lighting. Finally he spoke. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But Marcus, I need you to understand something. If you decide to work for me, it has to be because you believe in what we're building, not because you need me to save your career. I won't hire you out of guilt or family obligation." He nodded, but I could see the wheels turning in his head. The golden child who'd never failed at anything important was facing the possibility of professional failure, and his safety net was the brother he'd spent years dismissing. The rest of the party passed without incident, but the dynamic had fundamentally changed. Family members who'd once looked to Marcus as the standard of success were now asking me about my plans, my company, my vision for the future. The reversal was complete, but it felt more exhausting than satisfying. 3 days later, Marcus called to decline my job offer. "I appreciate it, David, I really do. But I think I need to figure out my own path forward. Taking a job from my little brother. It just doesn't feel right." "I understand," I said, and I genuinely did. Pride is a powerful thing, and sometimes it's more important than practicality. But I want you to know that I respect what you've accomplished. More than respect it, I'm in awe of it. You built something incredible while we were all telling you to give up. That takes a kind of strength I'm not sure I have. 6 months after the Forbes article, Marcus's investment firm collapsed exactly as I'd predicted. Poor decisions, excessive risk-taking, and a market downturn that exposed their fundamental weaknesses combined to create the perfect storm. Marcus lost his job along with most of his colleagues, and spent the next year struggling to find comparable employment in an industry that had lost faith in their approach. During that difficult period, he called me several times, not to ask for money or opportunities but to talk. Really talk in a way we hadn't since we were kids. He told me about the pressure he'd felt to be perfect, to live up to expectations, to maintain the image of success even when things were falling apart behind the scenes. "You know what's funny?" he said during one of our conversations. "All those years I thought you were the family failure. You were probably the only one who was actually free. Free to take risks, to pursue something meaningful, to build something lasting. I was so busy trying to look successful that I never thought about what success actually meant." "Success means different things to different people," I told him. "Your definition doesn't have to be mine." "Maybe not. But I think I'd like to try understanding your definition for a while." Today, Marcus works for a small sustainable energy startup in Portland. His salary is a fraction of what he made in investment banking, but he calls me every few weeks to talk about the projects he's working on, the impact they're having, the difference they might make in the world. He sounds happier than he has in years. As for me, my company has grown beyond anything I imagined during those lonely years in my studio apartment. We've developed AI applications that are helping doctors diagnose diseases earlier, helping researchers model climate solutions, and helping teachers personalize education for individual students. The technology one built while my family thought I was wasting my life is now being used to solve some of humanity's most pressing problems. The Forbes article was updated 6 months later to reflect my company's latest valuation, $7.8 billion. But the number that matters more to me is the one they don't publish: the lives our technology has already helped save, the problems it's helped solve, the positive impact it's having on the world. Christmas dinner is different now. The family still gathers at our parents' house, but the conversations have changed. Instead of Marcus dominating with stories of corporate success, we talk about meaningful work, about making a difference, about using our abilities to help others. Dad asks thoughtful questions about artificial intelligence ethics. Mom wants to understand how technology can help solve social problems. Even Grandma Helen, now 88, is curious about how computers can help doctors take better care of their patients. Last Christmas, as we sat around the same table where Marcus had once told me I'd never amount to anything, he raised his glass for a toast. "To David," he said, "for proving that sometimes the people who look like failures are just taking a longer path to success. And for reminding all of us that real success isn't about impressing other people, it's about building something that matters." The room was quiet for a moment, then erupted in agreement and applause. I looked around at my family, these people who doubted me, criticized me, and ultimately came to support me, and realized that this moment was worth every painful Christmas dinner, every dismissive comment, every suggestion that I should get a real job. Sometimes the greatest success isn't proving your critics wrong. It's proving that their criticism was irrelevant all along. The phone call from Forbes that interrupted Christmas dessert 3 years ago changed everything, but not in the way you might expect. It didn't just validate my success or silence my critics. It reminded me that real achievement happens quietly, in the space between other people's expectations and your own convictions. Marcus was right about one thing that night: reality doesn't care about your feelings. But what he didn't understand then, and what I'm still learning now, is that reality also doesn't care about other people's opinions of your potential. Reality only cares about what you actually build, what you actually create, what you actually contribute to the world. And sometimes, That's worth more than any family approval or social recognition could ever be.